In goes Stewart! They've only gone and done it!
And with a quick turn, skipper Alex Dock slams it in.
There's Lindegaard making Forrest backpedal. Davis looking to help it into the path of Morris. He's found him via the deflection. It's Aaron Davis. He could win it. He probably has won it for Yeovil.
Oh, and it's an opening goal. What a start. Madden, after just 6 minutes, gives Yeovil the lead.
Stansfield, good turn away from Trot. Goal.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Gloverspast from the Gloverscast. I'm Ian and I'm here with Dave to speak to another green and white legend. On this episode, we welcome a mercurial midfielder from a generation of success at Hewish Park. He scored historic goals, had the keys for many a defence as we killed giants, won trophies, and finally, after 108 years, reached the Football League. We're delighted to welcome Nick Crittenden to the Gloverscast. Welcome, Nick.
Pleasure to be there. Yeah, I enjoy the show. I want to say I love the show. So, yeah, good work.
He's getting his sweetness up already, and I think, we'll have to go easy on him.
Yeah, we will. We will.
On the show, real pleasure.
Oh, well, the pleasure is all ours, believe me. We normally start these interviews from the moment a player arrived at Yeovil, but you'll have to forgive us for asking you at the start of your career at Chelsea. I understand you were a Chelsea supporter, so just let us know the experience of what it was like being at the club with the likes of Ruud Gullit, Gianfranco Zola and Frank Leboeuf were at Stamford Bridge. Did you came on for Zola in one game after he'd scored a hat-trick, didn't you?
I did, yeah. It's one of my something that will live with me forever, I think. A lot of people remember that. He scored his only Premier League hat-trick against Derby County, and Ruud Gullit, who was manager at the time, I was on the bench, and he just said, give me 5 minutes, said go and have a run up top. So yeah, it went on. Had a little run around for sort of 5-10 minutes or so, and we didn't really get much of the ball, but yeah, it was a real amazing experience. Well, Chelsea were one of the sort of first clubs to start importing all the foreign players. So at the time, I was a young sort of apprentice, and they brought over Ruud Gullit, who sort of came over because of Glenn Hoddle, and then sort of the influx of foreigners followed, sort of, and I ended up being a young lad, sort of training with the first team, playing with players that had won the World Cup. I mean, Didier Deschamps, Marcel Desailly, Ruud Gullit won the Ballon d'Or, Frank Leboeuf. It's incredible players. It was an incredible time to be at the football club and to be a sort of a small part of that, and the experience sort of you never forget.
Yeah, and I know you've still got that picture, haven't you, of you replacing Zola, shaking hands as you go off the pitch?
Yeah, well, that was my. I actually played. I started a Coca-Cola Cup. It was Coca-Cola Cup back in the day against Southampton. I started a first team game there, went into extra time. We beat them 2-1, and then I sort of had a real good game. And I was involved in the first team for sort of the next couple of months, really, on and off the bench, made a few appearances, and then sort of out of nowhere, Ruud Gullit got the sack.
Was it Vialli took over then? And there seemed to be a few more of the foreigners came in around that time. I mean, was that? Did you realise then that it could be over for you as a Chelsea player, or did you hang around a bit?
I didn't really get too much of a chance under Luca Vialli. Ruud Gullit obviously liked me quite a lot, and I would have certainly have played a few more games and had a couple more opportunities. I travelled with the first team probably another 3 or 4 times when Luca took over, and then come to the end of that year, they brought in a whole host of new signings, and suddenly you're back in the reserves and with no chance. But again, I'm not going to grumble. I mean, that's something that will follow me around forever. A lot of people say sort of, oh, you play for Chelsea. It just follows you around everywhere. and people remember my sort of, it's quite an unusual name, and sort of people sort of pick up on it and remember it. So it's something that I look back on as good, obviously amazing times. What could have been might have been different if Rude would have stayed, but you never know, do you? You never know at all.
There was a little spell there at Plymouth, wasn't there? Was it the season after you had a couple of games at Plymouth?
Yeah, season after I went on loan to Plymouth for a month. Played a couple of games. Didn't get on too great. And then I was back after a month. Didn't really kind of work out. Yeah, well, the first game we had was bloody Carlisle away, I think, on a Tuesday. Plymouth. I drove down to Plymouth, got on the coach to Carlisle away, and it was a hell of a journey. And then back the next night, we had a resi game the next day. So it wasn't a great. I don't look at that as a great experience. I played a couple of games, but I didn't. Yeah, I didn't do myself any justice whatsoever at all.
I thought going from Lancashire to Havant was stupid enough, but Plymouth to Carlisle, Jesus Christ!
So many times, like with in the conference for years, and it's never a nice place to go. Never, no.
So it was summer 2000 before you made the move to Somerset when Dave Webb was in charge. Was it him or Skivo, a fellow Chelsea youngster, who sort of persuaded you to come to Somerset?
It was, so I had a call from Steve Thompson. I wasn't really sure where Yeovil was, to be honest, at the time. I heard a rumour that they used to train up in Wokingham or somewhere like that. So I spoke to Tomo. He said, come down. I had a couple of offers to go. I could have gone to Barnet and I think Colchester. I had a couple of offers, but obviously I knew Skiver. I knew a lad who you've had on your show, Ben Smith.
Yeah.
I knew of Ben because I went to college with him. He was at Arsenal when I was at Chelsea, so we sort of knew each other from those days. And then I went down to I was a bit and ahhing, didn't really want to sort of drop out the Football League, but I went to play the game at Portland away. Was my first game in a pre-season. I think we won sort of 5-1 or something, 6-1. I scored a goal from 30 yards, and Dave Webb offered me a contract, I think, in the change room after the game.
Bloody hell, what a place to be to get your contract in Portland away. Jesus.
It went there, really. And I just, I just had a good game and it set me off on a good foot. And I thought, I could get on well with these lads. He just had a young, Dave Webb put together a young group of lads that were in a similar situation to mine, been released from bigger clubs, had hopefully something to prove, and it just felt like the right place at the right time, and it turned out to be that as well.
I mean, Dave Webb was obviously a bit of a legend at Chelsea as well, wasn't he? And we've heard some stories. As I say, Ben Smith mentioned a few stories about him, and Roy O'Brien told us he was a sort of no nonsense kind of character. I mean, how did you find him?
Yeah, you didn't mess with him. Whatever he said, if he said something, you just did it. Actually, he didn't really get involved too much with the training. You wouldn't see him a lot of the times all week, or he'd turn up at 11:30 when you're having the five-a-side at the end. He let Tomo get on with a lot of the training. And even before a game, you wouldn't see him until about 2:50 when you came back from your warm-up, back in, they go back in the change room for about 10 minutes. He'd come down then, basically give you a couple of words of advice, say, this is what I want you to do, and do it. And it kind of worked. It's nothing that I've experienced before. Sort of Tomo would read out the team sheet before, he'd tell you the system you were playing. But Dave Webb would then come down 5-10 minutes before the game, give you all a further bit of instructions, and it kind of, and what it just worked. So I don't know why or how, but he just had this sort of way about him that he didn't say much, but when he did say something, you knew you had to do it. Otherwise you were well, if you didn't care who you were, you just had to get on and do it.
Who was it? I think it was Ben Smith told us he threatened to hang someone from a floodlight.
Glenn Paul, I think.
Glenn Paul, was it?
I don't think I was game for some reason.
Yeah, don't worry, he's not listening. He's not listening. It's fine.
But he didn't. Yeah, he just had that aura about him where you just knew that if he said something to you, he wasn't messing about, and you went, I did that. And he also had the respect that obviously of a man that has been there, done that, scored goals in the final, played in every position for Chelsea. I think he did. He's you knew to trust what he was doing, and he wanted the best for you. And that year we hit the ground running. I think we were 15 points clear at Christmas with 2 games in hand or something stupid like that. Yeah.
How different was it going from your Premier League experience and being at a club like Chelsea to then coming down to a club like Yeovil? Was that like a bit of like an adjustment, a bit of a culture shock for you?
It was, but it made you also realise that it's difficult. It's difficult to make a career in football. I did a 2-year YTS at Chelsea. I then signed a 3-year professional contract. And you kind of think that coming out of Chelsea, you think you can go and play in a league team. You could go and sort of play anywhere you want, but it's not that. It's a learning curve. It's not that easy to go and step from playing youth team football or to playing reserve team football to then go into a first team, even at non-league level. You see kids now that are coming out of academies think that they can go and walk in first teams at non-league. They just can't do it because there's good players littered around everywhere. So when I left Chelsea and come down to Yeovil, I learned so much more playing at Huish Park in front of 2,500, 3,000 fans that we had than I was playing at Kingstonian for Chelsea reserves in front of 50 people, where it's all about keeping the ball, running, getting the first team players fit. Whereas actually coming into Yeovil's first team, it was results-based business, and you've got to learn quickly actually how to win games and what it takes to win games. Otherwise, you ain't going to last long.
The club had, I think, the season you arrived at, literally just turned full time. That happened when Dave Webb arrived, I think. I mean, did you feel at that time that there was something building here? Did you get that sense that there was on the up?
We didn't really sort of sense it. We won the first game here. I remember the first game we won here 2-0, I think. Yeah. And then I think we went to Boston and got beat 4-0 the next game or something like that.
Yeah, you're right. 4-1 it was. Yeah. So
yeah, it's a bit of a sort of wake up call, but after that we just felt, I don't know what it was. We just felt invincible. It was sort of we I'll tell you what, we were a full-time team, like you say, young, fit lads that could run all day, playing against part-time teams. And we used to sort of, I don't know, run them into the ground. We had a bit of quality as well. We had some real good players. And it shows that we beat, was it Colchester 5-1?
Yeah.
Who was League One team, I think, at the time. So that ain't no fluke. You can't. We went to Blackpool, obviously. Went to Bolton, give them a great game for 90 minutes. We had a real strong, although it was young, we had a real strong belief that we were a good team and that we could challenge anyone.
Yeah, I think that season it was like you said, it was a real useful side. Anthony Tonkin, Andy Lindegaard, James Bent, and yeah, like you said, that was a very, very energetic team. Come October and Dave Webb packs up and goes to Southend. And Colin Addison came in. What was your feeling at the time? And the players we've spoke to before said it was quite a different management style with Colin compared to Dave Webb.
It was, but I really like working for Colin Addison as well, because he was another one. He came in. He knew he didn't have to change too much. He let the lads get on with it. Really, that's the team picked picked itself. He didn't have to sort of juggle around. I think he got McKindo in, didn't he? I think towards the end of that season. Again, he had a really good run when he first came in. We were still winning games every week. We were really doing, but towards the end of the season, when it really when we really needed to knuckle down and be professional, he kind of let it go a little bit. You could probably get away with what you wanted to do. Yeah, maybe he would do it different. I mean, he took us. We went away to Bournemouth. We took us on nights out, things like that. But I mean, Rushden, who we ultimately ended up losing the league to, were a real professional outfit. They had a beautiful ground. They had a hell of a playing budget, probably 3 or 4 times what we had at the time. And they did everything properly. They had resources coming out their ears, and we ultimately ended up blowing up. You could possibly blame the cup run as well. I mean, we got to the 3rd round of the FA Cup that year. Again, there's multiple factors that could have caused it, but if Dave Webb had stayed, maybe we might have won it. I don't know. Who would know?
Yeah, we'll never know, will we? But you've mentioned there about the FA Cup run, and it's probably the one thing everyone remembers about Colin Addison's time at the club. And obviously, probably your most famous goal, the winner in that tie up at Blackpool. What do you remember about that day, apart from the fact it was very wet?
Yeah, the pitch was awful. The pitch was horrible. I don't think that I remember not being able to stand up in the first half, really. And there was a bit down on the left wing where I was playing at the time. That was real boggy, and I don't think the game, had it not been on Sky, it would have been on. But again, we went there. They were flying high in League 2 at the time, and went there. We rode our luck a little bit. Tony Pennock had an incredible game that day, I remember. And
like a blessed goal, wasn't it? That.
Yeah, and I scored the goal that everyone seems to remember me for. And that's it, really. I can't really. I remember it was a hell of a journey. I went back with Pipe. We didn't go back on the coach. We went back with David Piper's dad. He used to drive. But we went back and had a few beers on the way back, and it was a great occasion. Like so many people I meet. Obviously, I'm still around Yeovil now. That just I was at Blackpool. So many people mention me almost every week. I was at Blackpool when you scored that goal.
I always remember that at the final whistle, and there's all the photographers go round you, and you're like absolutely drenched, and you're just there all saying, "Put your arms up," and you look like I just want to get out of this kit. I'm absolutely soaked.
It was awful. Yeah,
it was terrible.
Ground was awful as well, wasn't it? The ground was like half. They had you all in one little corner of the ground.
Yeah, I remember that terrace in the corner of the ground. Literally, you were standing on it, and it was falling away under your feet because it just like concrete was just breaking up. It was. But yeah, what an atmosphere that was when that one went in.
Yeah, it was a good day. Yeah. I mean, it pops up every year around October on Twitter at Christmas to go. FA Cup day. No, I'm happy for that day. Yeah.
And like you said, that it was quite the run, the 5-1 at Colchester, and then the trip to Bolton as well. I think it was super sub Michael Ricketts who broke our hearts that day. When you're in the moment and in the time playing all these big clubs and this giant killing reputation of Yeovil Town, is that, are you thinking about that when you're going up against these teams?
I think you just want to prove to yourself and to everyone that you can compete at those kind of levels, which we did. We went to Bolton. We conceded, I think, 42nd minute and then 90-something minutes, and they had to bring all their sort of big boys off the bench to kind of beat us. But I think you look at trying to pitch yourself into those levels to prove to yourself that you can do it. And I mean, we all wanted to play for Yeovil at the time. I mean, you look at things now, and if you're young lads playing in sort of conference or conference south, you ever had a cup run, you would then expect 2 or 3 of those players to go on and get moves to sort of bigger people coming in, scouts coming to watch you and stuff. But we all wanted to stay and play at Yeovil because we just loved it so much. It was a real good. I mean, the Hewish Park, when it was sort of rocking with 4,500 people there, it was an incredible place to play on a Saturday. I mean, we didn't want to go anywhere else. We had such a good team camaraderie. We had Warren Patmore up top who could just bang goals in, Skivo at the back, and then everyone else was pretty much sort of 18, 19, 20, just loving playing football.
Yeah, you mentioned that Bolton side. I mean, just looking at it here, they brought on Kevin Nolan. Obviously, he went on to have a great career. Dean Oldsworth, again, a Premier League striker in his day. Michael Ricketts, who I think got called up for England that season because of his form. So to run them, you're right, 44 minutes, John O'Kane scored, and Michael Ricketts in the 90th minute. To run them as close as we did was pretty special. But
felt like we couldn't do much wrong, to be honest. It's a strange feeling in football when you're playing really, really well and you're got full of confidence. Like I remember going there and just not being nervous, just going in front of 20,000 fans, however many were there, and just going out and like your kid playing football down the park. You just think, God, like we're flying. Do you know what I mean? We're going to give these a good game, and we did. We obviously took the lead, and then Barrington Belgrave had a good chance. I remember it could have been a different story. So it's taking that sort of togetherness and the sort of the confidence and multiplying it by 11, and it was sort of real. We felt invincible till the end when we started losing every week.
yeah, it was a bit of a sticky end, wasn't it? But you mentioned obviously Rushton pipped us to promotion. Colin Addison left, and then Gary Johnson arrived. I mean, a lot of players we've had on these interviews have told us about the sort of immediate impact that Gary made. I mean, you were there before he arrived. How did you see things change when he did come to the club, Gary?
Yeah, well, Gary came in and just took what was a good team with potential and sort of ability. He just took it to another level. He took it to a professional, right, this is what you're doing. He just took the team absolutely to another level, and it didn't not straight away, because we didn't have a great start that sort of the first season that Gary took over. We struggled a bit for a while. It took a while because he got a few new players in. He obviously got his son in. He got Colin Pluck in. Steve Cott. He got sort of a handful of new players that sort of didn't settle immediately. And obviously everyone was expecting from the season before we finished second to Rushden with no Rushden and Diamonds in the league. They thought we were going to go and sort of win every week, but it didn't sort of pan out that way to begin with. But again, he just took the professionalism of the team to another level. He wasn't having people going out drinking, even on a Saturday. He made us make a pact where he wouldn't go out all week, all season long. Didn't necessarily happen, but yeah. But he was professional. He obviously got Lee Johnson, Skivo, Darren Way as his sort of main men that he got to look after the change room for him, and it just the whole place just went 100% more professional overnight, and we reaped those rewards within a couple of years. We were in the Football League.
Yeah, like the first season ended with the FA Trophy win. Yeah. Having come so close to promotion, were you disappointed not to have challenged more for the title, or was that silverware important?
Yeah. We had a poor start to that season. I remember for our standards, and I think there were some quite big sides in that league at the time, sort of Doncaster. I mean, Gary was desperate to win a trophy by the end of the year. He wanted to win something that year. It was quite obvious, sort of second half of the season, that we weren't really going to win the conference. So they desperately wanted to win something, and thankfully another incredible achievement for the for that team to win the FA Trophy, which was again something that I still get stopped in the street for now. Like, oh, you were in the team that played at Villa Park. It was an incredible occasion, but it was quite evident that we weren't going to win the league. So I know Gary he was desperate to win the FA Trophy that year.
Yeah, we can't talk about the FA Trophy run and the final, of course, without mentioning Adam Stansfield. You came back summer before last for Legends game and back on the pitch. What do you remember about him as a player, and what do you remember about that day, the Legends game that there was?
Yeah, that was a fantastic occasion. I remember I used to run with Adam quite a lot on away games. I remember actually being injured with him after he broke his leg quite badly at Dorchester. I was out for about 8 weeks or so, probably even more, with a hamstring injury, and we would I would go with Tony Farmer, again, someone who's passed on again. He used to take me and Stano down to Burton Bradstock every morning of the week. We used to have us running along the pebbly beach, up the hills. Tony Farmer. I don't know if you know Tony. Do you know Tony at all?
I remember him from when he was physio. Yeah, was he a bit old school?
He was proper old school. And I remember Gary Johnson saying I'd get rid of him, but he gets all my players back fit because what he does is he would jog along the beach at like 5 miles an hour with his little dog Jack Russell, and then it'd say, right, just go and run up that hill and back, and you'd have to sprint up this hill and then back to him, and then you get back there, and then you go, I'll go and do it again. It's just have you running up and down the beach. It was proper old school, but again, it got you back. Just didn't want to be with it. So you were that desperate not to go running with him. You just went, I'm sorry, I'm fit now. I'll go and play.
And how did Stano take to it?
To be fair, I think Stano came back really fit. He had a year of it, I think. Probably the end of it. He'd had enough of seeing him. Yeah.
The other thing that happened that season was you made your England debut against the United States in a friendly. That must have been another special experience alongside those others you've had.
Yeah, I came on. I was on the bench, and I came on and got the penalty. We were goal down, and I came on, got the penalty, and then to the equaliser, and then I scored the winner, I think, or the other way around. I can't remember. But yeah, it was a real good sort of occasion. There wasn't too many fans there, I'd say. It's a massive privilege to represent your country at kind of any level, and I've got the shirt at home, or the cap, actually. I've got the cap on my wall. It's a great occasion, and but it wasn't something that massively I thought too much of at the time. Maybe it was kind of that was my only time. That was the only time I played.
There aren't many people who've got an England cap of any nature, so you're in an elite club there, I'd say.
No, it's funny though, as you get older, you start to appreciate the things that you didn't sort of maybe think too much of at the time. Like, I'd love to go back and have another go at my football career, or sort of, do you know what I mean, or experience playing at Stamford Bridge in front of 35,000 people. But it's funny, you just can't really remember kind of what it's like and what that experience was sort of like at the time.
Long time ago now, isn't it? But yeah, I mean, one thing that you remember about that team was the of that 2000, the early years of Gary, if you like, was the attacking lineup. I mean, Gavin Williams, you mentioned Michael McKindo and Kurt Jackson and Kevin Gould. But looking back at the stats, you actually scored 9 goals before Christmas that season. I mean, it must have been something to be an attacking player as you were, with all of that talent around you as well.
Yeah, I remember the season that we went up very well, because I was flying up till Christmas. I had like you say, I had 9 goals, I think, by sort of December. And then I got injured. I had a hernia operation, so I didn't really play. I kind of managed to get fit by the end of the season, but I was never 100% fit until the next season. So Gary sort of put me in a couple of games towards the end of the season, but I was never 100% fit until the next season. So the conference, and I mean, we had a like you say, we had an incredible team for the level that they were playing at, and you can see the where the players have moved up through the careers, like Lee Johnson then went on to Bristol City, Darren Way went on to Swansea, Gav Williams went on to play in the Premier League, McKindo again as well, fantastic footballer. And to put that team together playing in the conference, we didn't think we were going to lose games. We were going and just thinking Gary wasn't happy unless we were beating teams 3-0 at half time. You know, that's what he wanted. And that's, I mean, if we got to a point where we're 0-0 at half time, or even a goal down at half time, you'd make sure you kept your head down in the changing rooms, because he was a pretty angry man. Yeah, he used to. He wouldn't be happy. And if we, for any reason, we ever lost, he'd have you in the next day, and you'd be running. He used to do
Burton Bradstock, yeah.
He used to do something called ticks and crosses after the game. So he'd make you sit down, and he'd put the video on of the game from the day before. And you would have to pick another player on the team to do every time they got the ball. You had to do a tick if they kept it, or a cross if they if you lost it. And it was, he used to slaughter people. He used to then put all the marks on the board, see how everyone got on, and you knew, like, if you had a bad game, you like. I think once I only got the ball like 17 times. I think I gave it away about 10 times, and I knew I knew I was into it. But yeah, fear factor that you actually, if he told you to do something, you made sure you did it, and it didn't matter who you were. If you weren't doing it, you were out.
I think his legacy, obviously he's got a massive legacy at the football club, but I think for a lot of supporters, that legacy of being 3-0 up at half time is sort of why, as supporters, we get so frustrated, you know, when results don't go our way now, because we can remember just smashing teams and having really high standards. And I think for any manager, they're always going to have that looming over them.
But I'm not so sure that you would sort of that. I mean, that if you look at the team that we had with McKindo, Williams, Lee Johnson, Gav, Darren Way, you won't find another team like that playing in the conference. No. I'm telling you, won't. The players that were fit, and they were fit every week. You look at the team, like everyone played 30, 40 games a season, and you had pretty much the team picked itself, and you'll struggle to find a team that, without having to burst the bank and get like probably Wrexham did and Notts County did sort of last year, get 100 points, but we got 100 points and everyone was on 400 quid a week, because they were the young lads out of bigger clubs that fell together nicely, and it'd be tough to achieve that sort of again without having to bankrupt yourself, I would have thought. Yeah,
a lightning in a bottle.
I'd say, I don't know. I mean, it was it was just good to be a part of that team. And I always say I've had sort of little stints at management at Dorchester and things like that. And like, you always get remembered as a player for when you win something. You know, you can go and have individual good seasons. I had a good season there. I've had a good season. But when you're part of a team that wins something, people remember you. You know, like people remember me for being part of the conference team, for being part of the team that won the trophy. And they're the only sort of things really I've won in my career, but and that's what people sort of remember you for. And having that winning sort of tag follow you around. When I got released by Yeovil, sort of a couple of years later, I could have gone to 10, 15 conference clubs I'd throw me out. I could have taken my pick which conference club I wanted to go to, because I was part of that Yeovil team, and everyone knew that I knew what it took to win the conference. So having that, something, being part of when you've actually achieved something is it's something that people remember you for.
There was obviously the, I say, promotion into the football league. 108 years we'd waited, as Ian mentioned in the intro, having seen from turning football full time, I should say, and then seeing that transition through. I mean, how did it feel for you personally to be part of the team that did that after over a century of the club trying to do it?
Yeah, it's a massive achievement, and something that it's going to be incredibly tough for the club to do it again. I mean, you look at the teams in the conference now. It's there's some real big, big, incredible teams down there that have fallen like we have. But to be part of the team that brought Yeovil up into the league is something you'll always be remembered for, and it's something that I'm very proud of. Yeah, very proud of. And obviously now being a Yeovil citizen, I've lived in Yeovil now for the last sort of 15, 20 years, and my boys go to Preston School. My wife's from Yeovil, so I'll be here for a long time.
So then to go out in that first league game at Rochdale, you must have felt invincible off the back of that previous season, and then with all the supporters who made that trip up as well. What was it like that opening day?
Yeah, I remember it was a real hot day. I remember I know Kevin Gould obviously scored the Yeovil's first ever league goal, but that should be mine, because I had a great chance. I can't remember. The ball came over and I had it sort of came out the sky. I had a really good first touch, and it was just open goal, and I put it over. But yeah, that's something that I do regret, not ever scoring Yeovil's first goal, because I had that first chance. Really, it was a real good chance, and if I'd have had it again, I think I would have scored it.
Well,
it was
it
was a real great occasion. Like, balloons everywhere. The fans obviously made the massive trip up, and we never felt like we were going to let them down. We knew we were fit. We had a real good pre-season. Obviously on that role of winning the conference, and I think we never looked like we were going to lose. Yeah, we went into it, like I said, with incredible amounts of confidence, which as a footballer is what you thrive on.
Well, Ben has found out that you're actually alphabetically, you are the first player to play in the Football League.
One ahead of Kevin Gould. Kevin Gould was the second, because he's G and you're C.
Yeah. So there is
you can tell him that.
Yeah. Occasion, a fantastic occasion to be a part of. I remember I had a sort of 6, 7 out of 10 game. The one game that I remember not having a good game is at Villa Park, but people don't kind of remember it. But I had a bit of a beast that day. I got dragged after about 60 minutes. But again, people don't remember that.
Just remember you winning the final. That's all they remember.
Exactly. Now I look upon things more fondly. Obviously I did well at Blackpool, and I had a good game here against Liverpool. We played Liverpool in the FA Cup. So you look more fondly upon the games you actually had a real good game in.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you one that you can remember, and Ben called it up for us. We just watched it back on YouTube. Was your goal against Bristol Rovers up at their place? It was an absolute screamer, wasn't it? I mean, do you remember that one? That's your first Football League goal, I think.
I do. I had a real good game, not just the goal, but I had a real good game in that game. But it was again. It was. I think it was the first time that Bristol Rovers and Yeovil have ever met in a sort of a league. Yeah. It was a mess. I know it was sold out. Again, it was quite windy. That goal was a bit wind assisted, if you noticed.
Don't take the shine off it, Crit.
And if I showed it to a friend of mine a while ago. He said, "I'll keep it. Should have saved that." But but again,
He
like
didn't know, did he?
no,
So it doesn't matter.
but I scored. Yeah, and it's always nice to win 1-0 as well, isn't it? When you're the only goal scorer, I quite like it. It's Blackpool, and then you kind of take all the limelight. But yeah, I didn't score many like that, so I'm really proud of that. Yeah, really proud of that goal.
You've touched on it already, but we've got to mention the Liverpool game. We've chatted to a few about it already, Hugo Rodriguez in particular. But to give a strong Liverpool side, the runaround and really put them under pressure for so long must have been really something to be a part of in that midfield. And I think a lot of the passing in that game was highlighted by the studio guests on the BBC after. So what was it like being a part of that? That was the first big fixture that I ever saw as a supporter, with the TV cameras coming to town and a big Premier League club.
Yeah, that was really kind of nerve-wracking. I remember the build up to it. We had all the sort of the journalists down sort of on the whole week before. Really, it felt like people filming training, doing interviews outside the ground. I remember being really nervous for that one. It was sort of, I think it was a Sunday kickoff at midday or something like that. And it was live on, I think, BBC Two, wasn't it? Which was a bit BBC One or BBC Two. I can't remember.
It was on BBC, wasn't it?
Yeah, so for me, I'm thinking, God, everyone's watching this, like, yeah, and your worst fear is sort of in that situation is that actually I could make a bit of a fool of myself. I could have an absolute beast, and what could go wrong? So I remember being pretty nervous for that one, but turned out, yeah, we had I personally I felt I had a really good game. And actually, for that particularly in the first half, I've watched it back many times. I think we gave them a hell of a game. Probably looked the better team in the first half, and it wasn't really until they got that dodgy penalty that that kind of they trying to get on top. As soon as they scored, you think that's kind of it. But for 60 minutes, we gave them a real good game.
They had to bring on Emil Heskey, didn't they, to make the difference?
Yeah. And Harry Kewell had the cheek to win that penalty. Yeah,
I remember I played against El Hedge Juve.
Yeah,
and I don't think he could be bothered that day. He just didn't. Every time the ball went, I beat him to it, and I just didn't think he was that interested, to be honest. But he made me look good. So.
It was really foggy, wasn't it? I remember it being really foggy and cold.
Yeah, it was strange atmosphere. Yeah, it was a strange sort of fog in the atmosphere. Yeah, I remember it well, actually. I remember it well. But yeah, again, we as a team, we did ourselves a lot of justice, I think. And yeah, I think we were unlucky. We had a couple of good chances, I think, as well. I remember Gav having a couple of sort of strikes. Yeah, another day, if you take the lead in those games, something goes your way, it's game on, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean that season, probably in the second half of it, there's seems to be a bit of a gap in the in your appearance record. Was there an injury around that time? Seems to be sort of beginning of Feb, and then you're not playing again until the beginning of April. Was that injury related or?
Yeah, I had problems with my hamstring, so I always had problems with my hamstring. I don't know why, but I had certainly at Yeovil for the last couple of years I was there. I did my hamstring on numerous occasions, and then I was out, and I'd come back, and then I'd do it again, and I'd be out even longer. So I think I had probably 2 periods where I was out for quite sort of 8, 9, 10 weeks at a time. Not sure why it used to happen, but it did. I went to see multiple specialists and things, but I don't know why. But yeah, I was plagued a little bit by injury.
Yeah, I mean, did you feel you saw the team, obviously watching the team towards the end of that season, did that feel like it was going to be your last season at the club, or was it a bit of a surprise to you when it came to an end?
I think I was. I don't know, because Gary Johnson, I was never sure if Gary Johnson 100% liked me as a player. I've seen him obviously a lot of times since, and he says he's really friendly and everything, and I love him to bits. But I was never 100% sure if I was his kind of player. But when he first come to the club, I think obviously the fans kind of really liked me there. He sort of stuck with me for a few years. I mean, I had some good seasons playing under Gary Johnson, but whether he saw me as a long-term player in his team, I have my doubts. So maybe I knew that I was going to get released at the end of the season, deep down, but it was still a little bit of a surprise to me. I remember when he told me, and I was pretty upset, and I went out and sat in the middle of the pitch for a while. I didn't want to leave, but yeah, that's football, and that's what happens in football, and you get over it, and then you go and start afresh somewhere else. But yeah, I wasn't sure that I think I was unsure what was going to happen. He left it late. There was 4 or 5 of us that didn't really know what we were doing. We hadn't signed new contracts, and it was getting to the end of the season. I think Stano was potentially one of those who'd been injured, and I think he stayed and signed another year. But yeah, I left. There was quite a few of us that left that year.
Did you stay in touch with any of the team after you'd left, or did you keep an eye on that season? You know, obviously we won the league that year.
Yeah, I knew that Yeovil would do well the following year, and I think they won it, didn't they? They won League Two. I forever kept an eye out for Yeovil, yeah, because like being there for 4 or 5 years and playing sort of nearly 200 games, it's probably the one club I look out for the most. And obviously living down there now, that it's part of. I want my boys to grow up watching Yeovil. I want my boys hopefully one day to maybe play out there for the first team. You know, you never know, do you? But I keep in touch with sort of Roy O'Brien. Obviously, you've had on the show. Chris Will, I speak to quite a lot. Chris Giles, Gav Williams, I saw recently. So they kind of keep in touch as much as footballers do, but kind of. It's a bit of a funny world, football, where people come and go all the time. You make best mates, and then suddenly you never see them again. So, yeah, it's a difficult one.
Yeah. So I mean, after leaving Yeovil, you obviously did well with Aldershot, then got to playoff semi-final, and then you joined a club that we're not allowed to name on this podcast, but they play slightly south of Yeovil. But then you went to Dorchester. We're all right with them, and you had a spell as, I think it was player assistant manager. I mean, was coaching something you felt you always wanted to do, or did it just happen?
It happened at Dorchester. I was very young, and I wasn't sort of massively ready for it. It's something that I'd love to try one day. I'd love to give it a go one day. When I was assistant manager at Dorchester, I've got triplet boys, as you may well know, and they were 3 or 4 at the time, and it was just something that I couldn't commit to. I mean, even at Dorchester's level, if you're assistant or your manager, your phone never stops ringing. It's a part-time job, but actually it takes up all your time, and it's something that you need to fully commit to. And it just wasn't something that, I mean, we did well as a in sort of management as at Dorchester, but it's something that you need to fully commit to and give it all your time to be able to succeed. Because being a former player, you probably get 5-10 games before someone goes, "Oh, you're not very good at management." So you know what I mean. You've got to make an instant impact, especially if you're a young manager. So if you do have that opportunity ever, you need to make sure you give it your best shot.
We had that spell after Skivo left, didn't we, where we were assistant managerless, and you helped out Darren Searle for one game, I think.
Yeah, I did. I didn't do much. I just
You were there. That's all that counted.
I tell you what I was doing. I was stood up, and I thought, this is all right. I stood up, and then Weymouth went a goal up, and then I started getting a bit of abuse. I thought, I have to sit down. I had to sit down. Got a bit hairy up there. It's not a nice place to be when you're yeah, it's quite a lonely place when you're when things aren't going your way. You can kind of hear every individual voice behind you. Yeah.
Probably know a few of them, I'd
Yeah,
imagine.
probably. Yeah. But yeah, he just said to me, he texted me, I think a couple of days before, he said, do you want to help me out with the first team on Tuesday night? And I was like, okay, what do you want me to do? He said, nothing, just come in and have a cup of tea and sit with me. And that was all I did, really. I helped warm the boys up. And that was it, really. But Darren Styles is a real good, yeah, he's doing a good job at Woking. Got on really well with him, and he's just he's a young manager, but I'm pretty sure he'll have a real good career ahead of him.
Yeah. And then you obviously returned to the club as a club accountant, and I think were you about during the COVID period, or did you? Because I know you then went away again, didn't you? Had you gone by then?
Yeah, so I started as a club accountant when we were in the Championship.
Yeah.
In the accounts department. Sorry, when I first started in the Championship, there were three of us in the accounts department. By the time I'd left, it was just me. I left just after COVID, after Scott Priestnall took over. I did a couple of years with Scott. Be honest, I had to go. I didn't like what was happening at the club. I didn't really want to be part of what was happening at the club. So I stepped aside, and now Martin's taken over. He's kindly offered me my job back, and I started a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. And I mean, how accountancy? How did that come about? Going from being a footballer to an accountant, was it something you had to go training for? And
it is, yeah. I did 3 years at I did 3 years to get my qualifications, and the job sort of it was Roy O'Brien actually who was speaking to John Fry, and he said, Chris is doing his accountancy qualifications, because being a footballer, obviously it's a real short career. I had this conversation actually last week with Josh Staunton, and when you come out of football at 35, if you're lucky, you come out at 35, or you might come out at 28, and to earn the money that you're earning as a footballer, which can be sort of real quite good money, to then go into a job, then to leave football. I'm earning the money that I was when I was sort of 19, 20. Because coming out of football, it's difficult to then get that wage. Where do you go? Who's going to give you, I don't know, £1,000 a week, for instance, working in a building site, or if you've got no qualifications? So I took the step early when I was still playing for Dorchester to go and do my accountancy qualifications, which is something that I always quite enjoyed doing. I enjoyed the thought of, and I took that, took the account, and then I took the job here and basically learned on the job here, and it's a perfect job, really. It gives me the opportunity to stay around football and understanding how managers work, football clubs work, and doing the job of the club accountant, where that I also enjoy as much as anything. And I get to watch the team on a Saturday, which is a win-win for me.
Unless you go to Havant like Dave did. Obviously there's been so much change over the summer since Martin came in. How does it feel to be back compared to leaving? Obviously you said you left, for your reasons, but what does the feel around the club in comparison to then?
The feel around the club's incredible. It's a massive change from how it was. I mean, the club was basically, I don't want to talk too much about the previous owner, but the club was basically left rudderless. It didn't have an owner. It was just left to rot, to be honest. And Martin's come in, which is an incredible thing for the football club. I mean, it's come in and spent so much. If you just come and look at the ground, what the changes that have been made, nothing's been sort of spared. And the players, the budget, the football players that you've got on the pitch, it's a massive turnaround from how it was, and I just wanted to be kind of a part of that, because I can see the football club going, having a good successful year this year, and hopefully going back up the leagues, where I think we should be able to kind of hold our own as a League Two club.
And if he's spending a few quid, it'll keep you busy as the accountant as well, I imagine.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does.
Plenty of paperwork.
Yeah, more invoices coming in, things like that. Yeah, he's come in and he's just given it a new lease of life, and someone new around, and he's got a lot of new faces in that are just sort of driven to make this club work. He's a successful businessman that will, whether you like him or not, him coming into this football club is the best thing that could have happened at the time, because this club was going to go into administration. They had no money to pay the wages. It was getting left another month, it would have gone into administration, and there would be no football club. And Martin's taken it over with, we don't own the ground. The club's straddled with debt, and I said to him that I wish you would have taken it over 3 or 4 years ago, when you owned the ground and there was no debt. There was no debt to pay. But it's going to cost a hell of a lot of money to run the club this year. And hopefully, with the changes that he's making and a bit of success on the pitch, you can start to sort of stop those losses as much as you can. But it's not sort of pocket money that we're talking about.
No, absolutely. Well, it's been brilliant talking to you, and we always finish these podcasts, as if you've listened to a few, you might know, just asking you to just say, going to be a few Yeovil Town fans listening to this who remember you as a player. What would you like to say to them about your time as a player and now as accountant at the club as well?
Yeah, I'd like to sort of maybe thank the fans for sticking with the club over the last certainly 9-10 years, because I've got if you look at the results since the championship, of the club's finished 24th, 20th, 19th, 20th. There's a losing mentality around this club. But there was one year where I think we finished 4th by default under Darren Sarll, but that was the year that COVID hit and no one was allowed in to watch any of the games. So basically, the fans have been watching losing football for the last sort of 9, possibly 10 years. But actually, we're still getting 2,500 fans every week. So for them to stick with the club, stick by the club. Hopefully this year and now the club's under new ownership, that they start to repay that sort of that loyalty by showing you some real good football and results on the pitch.
Yeah. And you mentioned about your boys playing for youth teams. Is there going to be another Crittenden turning out in green and white in the near future?
I'd hope so, but they love football. They're sporty. I've got 2 boys that play football, and they sort of in this sort of JPL setup. So they're good little footballers. And you never know, do you? You just got to enjoy it. I just say you just got to go out and enjoy football and see where it takes you. I don't put any pressure on them.
You show them that goal at Bristol Rovers, do you? Show them that. Say, that's how it's done, boys. That's how it's done.
No, they're big. Ollie loves it. Ollie, my eldest boy, if you can call him eldest, that triplets, the oldest.
Yeah.
But he comes every week. He loves it. He just wants to come and watch. Wants to go into Thatcher's End. He wants to go to away game. I'm gonna start taking him to more. We went to a few away games last year, but start taking him to away games. He's just got that bug for football. He loves it. Yeah.
Brilliant. Right. No, it would be amazing legacy to see another Crittenden in green and white.
You never know, do you?
You never know. You never know.
Well, thank you very much for your time, Nick. Really
Enjoy.
appreciate it. It's been great to talk to you, and thank you for scoring so many famous goals.
Yeah. Look after those books for us.
Yeah. Keep up the good work, guys. Enjoy the Shane.
Thank you.
And with a quick turn, skipper Alex Dock slams it in.
There's Lindegaard making Forrest backpedal. Davis looking to help it into the path of Morris. He's found him via the deflection. It's Aaron Davis. He could win it. He probably has won it for Yeovil.